The warning signs. Admiral Zex Torin stood before the glowing holographic display. His 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the ancient data cube recovered from the abandoned Prothean outpost. After 3 cycles of decryption, the cube had finally yielded its secrets. A simple message repeated in 17 extinct languages. Quarantine Protocol 7 Alpha. Species Homo sapiens. Location: Sol system, 3rd planet. Warning: do not engage. Containment is paramount. The awakening must be prevented at all costs. The Admiral's secondary limbs twitched with irritation. The Thalaxian collective had ruled this sector of the galaxy for over 12,000 cycles. They had crushed rebellions, tamed hostile environments, and catalogued countless species. And now this, a warning about a primitive species from a backwater system. Ridiculous, he muttered, his voice resonating through his breathing chambers. Behind him, Science Director Naravine shifted uncomfortably. Unlike the Admiral, she took ancient warnings seriously. The message dates back approximately 14,000 of our cycles, she said. That would place it during the time of the Great Silence, when the Protheans and many other advanced civilizations suddenly vanished. The Admiral waved a dismissive limb. Superstition. Archaeological evidence shows a gamma-ray burst wiped out most spacefaring civilizations during that era. Nothing more. Perhaps, Naravine conceded, but our long-range observations of Earth show anomalies. Their technological development is uneven. They progressed from primitive combustion engines to quantum computing in less than 200 cycles. That's unprecedented. Admiral Zex Torin turned away from the display. The High Council was already eager to expand Thalaxian influence to new territories. Earth sat at the edge of a resource-rich region that would fuel the collective's economy for millennia. The High Council has already approved first contact, he said firmly. Scout vessel Distant Horizon will depart next rotation. Naravine's skin flushed a deep blue, a sign of extreme concern among her kind. Admiral, I formally request my objection be recorded. Noted, he replied coldly. But this mission proceeds. Captain Lord Dalvik of the Distant Horizon maintained a professional demeanor as his vessel approached the Sol system, but inwardly he was thrilled. First contact missions were rare and career-defining. His vessel, a sleek reconnaissance ship equipped with the collective's best stealth technology, would observe the humans up close before revealing themselves. Entering the outer boundary of the Sol system, his navigation officer announced, "Stealth systems functioning at optimal levels." "Excellent," Lord Dalvik replied. "Maintain course to the 3rd planet. Standard observation protocol." The Distant Horizon glided silently past the gas giants and asteroid belt. Everything proceeded according to plan until they passed the 4th planet. "Captain," the sensor officer called out, voice wavering. "I'm detecting something." Lord Dalvik frowned. "Be specific, officer." "That's just it, sir. I can't identify it. There's a field of distortion around Earth. Our sensors pass through it, but the data comes back corrupted." "Impossible," the captain muttered, moving to the sensor station. "Run diagnostics." "Already did, sir. Equipment is functioning properly." Lord Dalvik studied the readouts. Indeed, a strange electromagnetic field surrounded Earth, unlike anything in the collective's vast databases. More curious still, it didn't appear natural. The patterns were too regular, too structured. "Adjust course," he ordered. "Let's get a closer look at this field." As they approached Earth's moon, the distortion intensified. The ship's systems began experiencing minor glitches. Flickering lights, momentary sensor blackouts, communication static. "Sir," the communications officer suddenly called out, "we're receiving a transmission." "From whom?" "The humans." "No, it's coming from everywhere." The main screen activated without command, displaying a sequence of mathematical equations. Basic at first, simple arithmetic and geometry, then rapidly evolving to advanced calculus and multi-dimensional physics. "It's a test," The science officer whispered, "Someone's testing our intelligence." Before Lord Dalvik could respond, the equations vanished, replaced by a simple message in perfect Thalaxian script. "You were warned. Return to your territory." The bridge fell silent. "How could they?" the navigation officer began. "Sir," the sensor officer interrupted. "Multiple objects approaching from Earth. Fast." Lord Dalvik snapped back to attention. Evasive maneuvers. Maximum stealth. But the stealth systems suddenly failed. Every system on the distant horizon began shutting down one by one, as if some external force was systematically dissecting their technology. "Emergency power. Send distress signal to the collective." The communications officer worked frantically. "Signal sent. But, sir, the objects have surrounded us." Through the viewports, Lord Dalvik could see them now, sleek, dark vessels, unlike any human technology they had observed from afar. They moved with impossible precision, creating a perfect formation around the distant horizon. The last transmission from the scout ship reached the collective 13 hours later. The humans knew we were coming. They were waiting. The warning was real. Do not engage. Then silence. The High Council chamber on Thalax Prime hummed with tension as Admiral Zex Torin presented his report. "The distant horizon has been lost," he admitted. "Last communication suggested hostile action by the humans." High Counselor Vex Mera, the eldest and most respected of the ruling body, leaned forward. "This primitive species destroyed one of our advanced vessels." "How?" "Unknown," the Admiral replied. "But I recommend an immediate show of force. We cannot allow aggression against the collective to go unanswered." Science Director Naravine, invited to the session as a consultant, spoke up. "Perhaps we should reconsider. The ancient warning was vague and outdated." Zex Torin interrupted. "The humans are clearly hostile and must be dealt with swiftly." After hours of debate, the Council reached its decision. A diplomatic expedition would be sent, heavily escorted by warships. The humans would be given one chance to explain their actions and submit to collective authority. The expedition force departed 3 rotations later. The diplomatic vessel Voice of Reason, accompanied by 5 warships, including the dreadnought Inevitable Victory under Admiral Zex Torin's personal command. As they approached the Sol system, Naravine, who had insisted on joining the mission, spent hours studying the ancient warning and everything known about humans. Something about their rapid development troubled her. Species didn't evolve technology that quickly without outside influence. When the expedition reached the orbit of Saturn, they detected debris, fragments of the distant horizon, scattered across thousands of kilometers. "Analysis confirms these are components of our vessel," reported the science officer. "But they appear studied. Each piece has been systematically examined and cataloged." Admiral Zex Torin's face hardened. "They dissected our ship like a laboratory specimen." "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we're being hailed." "From Earth." "On screen," Zex Torin ordered. The view screen activated, showing the human female. She appeared calm, dressed in a simple gray uniform with no visible rank or insignia. "Greetings, representatives of the Thalaxian Collective," she said in perfect Thalaxian. "I am Director Ilara Rise of Earth's Unified Defense Command. You have entered restricted space despite clear warning. State your purpose." Admiral Zex Torin stepped forward. "How do you know our language? How did you destroy our scout ship?" The human's expression remained neutral. "Your language was simple to decode from your transmissions. As for your scout ship, it was not destroyed, merely examined. We returned your crew to suspended animation and placed them in orbit around the 6th planet. They await your retrieval." Naravine gasped. The humans had captured, studied, and preserved the crew without the collective even realizing it. "You speak of warnings," Zex Torin continued, "yet the collective has made no contact with Earth before now." Director Rice tilted her head slightly. "Not your warnings. The quarantine was established long before your species achieved spaceflight. A chill ran through the bridge. What quarantine? Naravine asked, stepping forward. For the first time, the human's composure shifted slightly. Surprise, perhaps, at the question. You truly don't know, Rice said. Interesting. The Protheans never shared that information with you, or perhaps the knowledge was lost. She paused. Admiral, Science Director, I suggest you recover your crew and return to your territory. This will be your only warning. The screen went dark. Scan the sixth planet, Zextoran ordered immediately. Minutes later, they confirmed it. The entire crew of the distant horizon, alive but in stasis pods, orbiting Jupiter exactly as the human had claimed. A retrieval mission is already underway, the Admiral informed the bridge. But we will not be intimidated by these primitives. Prepare all ships for advance to Earth orbit. Naravine approached him privately. Admiral, please reconsider. They returned our people alive when they could have killed them. They're offering us a chance to withdraw peacefully and show weakness. He hissed. Never. The collective does not retreat. The expedition continued toward Earth, retrieval vessels breaking off toward Jupiter, while the main force proceeded inward. As they passed Mars, sensors detected strange energy readings from the planet's surface. Sir, the sensor officer reported, there appear to be structures on Mars. Artificial structures. Recent construction. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared across all 5 warships simultaneously. Ship systems reported multiple failures across the fleet. Weapons, shields, propulsion. Everything was failing in precise, coordinated sequence. Cyber attack. The systems officer shouted. But how? Our networks are isolated. On the main view screen, Director Rice appeared again, this time alongside a tall male human with dark skin and piercing eyes. Admiral Zextoran, she said calmly, this is Dr. Marcus Chen, our chief of xenotechnology. He would like to demonstrate why the quarantine exists. The male human stepped forward. Your computational systems are impressive, Admiral, but fundamentally flawed. Your species thinks linearly. Input, processing, output. We don't. He raised his hand, and across the bridge of the inevitable victory, holographic displays appeared, schematics of the warship down to the smallest component. Your ship's designer was clever, Dr. Chen continued. This power routing here, elegant solution to prevent cascade failures. Admiral Zextoran stood frozen. Those were classified designs, never transmitted, stored only in secure databases on Phalax Prime. How are you doing this? He demanded. The human smiled slightly. The same way we're currently controlling your fleet. The same way we know everything about the Phalaxian collective, from your military capabilities to your most closely guarded technological secrets. Director Rice stepped forward again. Admiral, your ships are now under our control. We will guide you to a safe distance from Earth, where control will be returned. Take your people and go. Do not return. As if to demonstrate their power, the fleet began moving in perfect formation, turning away from Earth despite all efforts by their crews to regain control. Naravine approached Zextoran, who stood rigid with fury and disbelief. Admiral, she whispered, I've been compiling data since we entered this system. The energy output from Earth, the technological signatures. They're far beyond anything our intelligence suggested. These aren't primitives. They're something else. As the Phalaxian fleet was escorted out of the inner solar system, Naravine continued studying the humans from afar. What she discovered sent waves of fear through her 4 hearts. The quarantine wasn't to protect the galaxy from humans. It was to protect humans from the galaxy, until they were ready. And now they were awake. The awakening, the grand assembly hall of the Phalaxian collective, had never been so full. Representatives from all 17 member species crowded the tiered seating, their urgent whispers creating a sound like rushing water. At the center, Admiral Zex Torin stood rigid as he delivered his report on the Earth expedition's failure. The humans demonstrated technological capabilities far beyond our intelligence estimates, he admitted, his voice amplified throughout the vast chamber. They disabled our warships without firing a single conventional weapon. High Counselor Vexmera's facial tendrils writhed with agitation. How is this possible? Our observations showed them barely capable of reaching their own moon. Science Director Naravine stepped forward, her research terminal projecting data into the air above the assembly. A deliberate deception, she explained. After analyzing energy signatures from our brief visit, I believe the humans have been concealing their true development level for centuries. The holographic display showed a timeline of human technological progression, highlighting the suspicious acceleration patterns and inconsistencies. Their public technology advances incrementally, as expected for any species, Naravine continued. But there are energy signatures, resource movements, and gravitational anomalies that suggest a shadow technology path far more advanced than what they display. War Minister Krulvorth, a massive, heavily armored Phylaxian from the warrior caste, slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor. Deception or not, we cannot allow such disrespect to stand. I propose immediate mobilization of the Grand Fleet. We will show these humans the true might of the collective. Cheers erupted from many representatives, particularly those from traditionally militaristic species. Admiral Zex Torin, however, remained silent, his earlier enthusiasm for conflict noticeably absent. When the chamber quieted, Naravine activated another display, this one showing ancient star charts and cryptic symbols recovered from Prothean archives. Before we commit to war, she said carefully, there is more you must know about the quarantine mentioned by the humans. The assembly grew silent as she explained her findings. I've cross-referenced all available ancient records about Earth. The quarantine wasn't established by the Protheans alone, but by a coalition of 17 advanced civilizations, many of which disappeared during the Great Silence. They devoted enormous resources to isolating Earth, not simply with warning beacons, but with technology designed to hide the system from detection. To what end? Asked Counselor Vexmera. Naravine hesitated. The records are fragmented, but they suggest humans possess something called the catalyst, a latent capability that, if fully expressed, could fundamentally alter galactic dynamics. War Minister Krulvorth scoffed. Mystical nonsense. These humans bleed and die like any species. Their ships can be destroyed, their planet burned. Perhaps Admiral Zex Torin finally spoke. But I was there. I witnessed their control over our most secured systems. They could have destroyed our fleet but chose not to. The debate raged for days. Eventually, the militarists prevailed. The collective would assemble its Grand Fleet, the largest military force in known space, comprising over 3,000 warships from all member worlds. They would show humans the consequence of defying the established galactic order. As preparations began, Naravine made a troubling discovery. Communication buoys near the borders of collective space reported unusual activity, ships of unknown design appearing briefly before vanishing. Monitoring stations were going silent without warning. Something was probing their defenses. On Earth, Director Ilara Rice stood before the Global Defense Council, composed of representatives from Earth's unified government. Behind her, a holographic display showed the massive Phylaxian fleet being assembled. As predicted, they're preparing for war, she reported calmly. Approximately 3,000 vessels, including 400 capital ships. General Ibrahim Chen, head of Earth's military forces and father of Dr. Marcus Chen, leaned forward. And our assessment of their capabilities. Impressive by conventional standards, Rise replied. Their weapons technology is particularly advanced. Antimatter warheads, directed energy weapons capable of planetary bombardment. But their fundamental understanding of physics remains limited. From the corner, Dr. Marcus Chen spoke without looking up from his data tablet. They still perceive reality in 3 dimensions with linear time. They have no access to the substrate. A council member, Representative Julia Okafor from the African Union, raised her hand. Director Rice, some of us remain concerned about full activation. The protocols established by our ancestors were clear. Emergence was to be gradual. Rice nodded respectfully. The protocols assumed we would choose the time of our emergence. The Thalaxians forced our hand when they ignored the quarantine warnings. The council chamber fell silent as everyone considered the implications. For centuries, humanity had carefully hidden its true capabilities, maintaining a false technological front, while their actual development progressed along entirely different lines. The quarantine established by ancient races had been maintained by humans themselves after they discovered the truth about their nature. "How much do they know about the catalyst?" asked another counselor. "Very little," Dr. Chen replied. "Their records contain only vague warnings. They don't understand what we are, or what we're becoming." Director Reyes stepped forward. The Protheans and their allies knew. They'd recognized the pattern. When a species with our particular neurological structure reaches a critical population threshold and technological level, the catalyst activates. It's happened before, with catastrophic consequences. And yet, General Chen added, they didn't exterminate our ancestors. They quarantined us instead, gave us time to mature, to learn control. We owe them for that mercy. Representative Okafor sighed heavily. And now the Thalaxians come, blind to what they're walking into. "We've sent 14 additional warnings," Rise noted, all ignored. After hours of deliberation, the Council reached its decision. Earth would reveal enough of its capabilities to discourage the Thalaxian aggression without triggering a wider galactic panic. The true nature of the catalyst would remain hidden, if possible. As the meeting concluded, Reyes and Dr. Chen walked together through the underground complex that housed Earth's real government facilities, far from the public buildings above. "They won't retreat," Chen said quietly. "I've analyzed their cultural and psychological profiles. The warrior caste has too much influence, and they cannot conceptualize a threat they haven't seen before." Reyes nodded grimly. "Then we show them just enough to make them reconsider, without revealing everything." The Thalaxian Grand Fleet assembled at the edge of the Sol system, a vast armada stretching across thousands of kilometers of space. At its center, aboard the super dreadnought Eternal Dominion, Admiral Zext Torin surveyed the holographic battle plans with growing unease. Despite his earlier enthusiasm for contact with Earth, the Admiral had argued for caution after their first encounter. He had been overruled by War Minister Kralvoreth, who now stood beside him, gleefully reviewing the attack formations. 3 waves, Kralvoreth explained to the gathered commanders. "First, we eliminate their orbital defenses, then planetary bombardment of military targets. Finally, landing forces to secure submission." Science Director Neravine, relegated to an advisory role, spoke from the edge of the tactical area. "Minister Admiral, my latest analysis suggests unusual energy fluctuations throughout the system. I believe the humans are more prepared than we anticipated." Kralvoreth dismissed her concerns with a gesture. "They managed a few technological tricks against a small expedition. This is the Grand Fleet, the mightiest force in the galaxy." The signal to advance was given. As the vast armada moved toward the inner system, scout vessels reported strange findings. The humans had apparently abandoned their orbital installations. Mars, previously showing signs of settlement, now appeared deserted. "They're retreating to their homeworld," Kralvoreth declared confidently, consolidating their defenses. Admiral Zext Torin wasn't convinced, or luring us in. "Extreme caution is advised." As the fleet approached Earth's moon, their sensors detected nothing. No defenses, no emissions, no movement. The blue-green planet ahead seemed peaceful, almost defenseless. "Full sensor sweep," the Admiral ordered. The results were puzzling. Earth's obvious infrastructure remained, but energy readings were minimal. Major cities appeared powered down. Military installations showed no activity. Have they surrendered? A junior officer wondered aloud. Naravine studied her instruments intently. No, something else. These readings don't match any evacuation scenario. War Minister Kralvoreth grew impatient. Enough delays. Begin the attack sequence. The first wave of Thalaxian destroyers moved forward, weapons charged. As they reached optimal firing range, every communication channel suddenly activated simultaneously. On thousands of screens across the fleet, Director Ilara Reyes appeared. Thalaxian Collective Forces, this is your final warning. The quarantine exists for your protection. Withdraw immediately. Kralvoreth snarled. Fire all weapons. The destroyers launched their attack. Antimatter missiles and energy beams streaking toward Earth's surface. What happened next would forever change the collective's understanding of warfare. Halfway to their targets, the weapons simply stopped. Frozen in space, antimatter warheads hung motionless, their detonation sequences halted mid-process. Energy beams curved impossibly, forming spiraling patterns that dissipated harmlessly. Impossible, breathed Admiral Sext Toran. On the view screens, Director Rice shook her head sadly. We had hoped for peaceful contact when we eventually emerged. Now we must demonstrate why the quarantine was necessary. The space around the Thalaxian fleet began to shift. There was no other word for it. Reality itself seemed to warp and distort. Ships at the edges of the formation reported spatial anomalies. Distances expanding and contracting unpredictably. What's happening? Demanded Kralvoreth, his confidence finally shaken. Naravine's instruments were going haywire. They're manipulating spacetime itself. Throughout the fleet, systems began failing, not through cyber attacks as before, but because the fundamental physical constants they relied upon were changing. Quantum processors received impossible values. Gravity generators created conflicting fields. Matter and energy behaved according to different rules. Then Earth itself seemed to ripple, its surface distorting like the reflection in a disturbed pond. From these ripples emerged vessels, if they could be called that. They resembled no ships the Thalaxians had ever seen, with geometries that hurt to look at directly, structures that seemed to exist partially in dimensions beyond normal perception. The catalyst, whispered Naravine in horrified awe. This is what the ancients feared. The human vessels didn't attack conventionally. Where they passed, Thalaxian ships simply changed. Some aged centuries in seconds, their hulls corroding and systems failing as entropy accelerated around them. Others became partially transparent, their matter shifting into another phase. A few disappeared entirely, displaced to unknown locations. In the chaos, Admiral Zex Torin made a desperate decision. All ships, full retreat. Abandon attack formation. Return to collective space immediately. But retreat proved as difficult as advance. The space around the fleet had become unpredictable. Navigation systems couldn't establish reliable coordinates, and FTL drives failed to engage properly. On the command deck of the Eternal Dominion, now isolated from most of the fleet, Director Reyes appeared once more, not on a screen, but physically present, standing calmly among the stunned Thalaxian officers. How? Began Admiral Zex Toran. I'm not actually here, she explained gently. Not in the way you understand presence. What you're experiencing is the catalyst in its early stages, humanity's emerging connection to the substrate of reality itself. War Minister Kralvoreth lunged at her with a ceremonial blade, only to pass through her form harmlessly. The ancient races discovered a pattern. Rise continued undisturbed. Certain species evolve neural structures that, at a critical population threshold, begin to function as a collective consciousness capable of manipulating fundamental forces. In most cases, this happens before the species fully understands what's occurring. The result is usually catastrophic. She gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing worlds torn apart, stars destabilized, space itself damaged. We are not the first catalyst species, she explained. But we may be the first to achieve conscious control of the emergence. The Protheans recognized our potential and isolated us instead of destroying us, gave us time to mature, to understand our nature, to develop ethical frameworks for our abilities. Admiral Zex Torin found his voice. And now you have forced our emergence before we had planned, though fortunately not before we were ready. Her expression softened slightly. Your fleet will be allowed to return home. Your affected ships will be restored once they leave our system. We have no desire for conflict. Neravine stepped forward cautiously. What happens next? Will you expand? Conquer? No, Reyes replied firmly. We will maintain a protective zone around Sol while we continue to develop. In time, we hope to establish peaceful relations with species prepared to accept us as we are. She turned to Admiral Zex Torin. You were curious about us from the beginning, Admiral. Your instinct to learn rather than conquer does you credit. Perhaps you will leave those relations one day. With that, her form dissolved into particles of light that faded from view. 6 cycles later, the galaxy had changed profoundly. News of the Thalaxian defeat spread quickly, despite the collective's attempts to suppress it. The revelation of Earth's true nature triggered fear across many civilizations, but also fascination. The quarantine zone around Sol was now formally acknowledged by all major powers. Earth established limited diplomatic contact, receiving ambassadors at a station constructed at the edge of their system. They shared some technologies, particularly medical and environmental innovations, but nothing related to their unique abilities. In the Thalaxian collective, internal revolution had overthrown the warrior caste's dominance. Admiral Zex Torin, now elevated to High Ambassador, prepared for his first official visit to the human diplomatic station. Science Director Neravine, who had become his closest advisor, reviewed the latest data on human activities. They're being careful, she noted, limiting their presence outside their system, constraining their influence. Zex Torin nodded thoughtfully. They understand the fear they inspire. It's considerate and tactical, she added. They're giving the galaxy time to adjust to their existence. As their shuttle approached the diplomatic station, they passed a monument installed at the system's edge, a preserved section of an ancient Prothean vessel inscribed with the original quarantine warning in dozens of languages. Below it, a new inscription had been added in modern galactic standard. The quarantine is lifted, but the warning remains. Engage with humans mindfully, for we are still learning the boundaries of our nature. We seek friendship, not dominion. Understanding, not submission. The catalyst serves life, not entropy. Zex Torin studied the words carefully. The humans remained enigmatic, their full capabilities still unknown. But one thing had become clear. The ancient races had been right to fear them, yet wise to spare them. As humanity awakened to its true nature, the galaxy faced a choice: learn to coexist with this new power, or risk facing what the Thalaxian Grand Fleet had experienced, a force beyond conventional comprehension. For his part, Zex Torin had chosen cooperation. As their shuttle docked at the station, he prepared to meet Director Reyes in person for the first time, the representative of a species that had been underestimated, then feared, and now, perhaps, could be understood. The next chapter of galactic history was beginning, and humans would write much of it, whether other species heeded the warnings or not.